This year I decided that I was going to put my Goodreads challenge to 52 books to continue to motivate myself, but hopefully not to stress myself out. That's my opinion on the Goodreads thing, for anybody who ever wondered. I didn't talk very much about that when everybody was having a about it last January. You do you. You put as many books on your Goodreads count thing as you want, and if it feels like pressure, then don't, or put one book and then immediately accomplish something as soon as you've read your first January read. That's my opinion. So I put 52 books because I felt like wouldn't stress me out, and I think I've achieved that because I completed my Goodreads challenge. I've read 57 books this year, and I have quite a few currently on the go. In the true spirit of Non-Fiction November, by accident I happen to be reading a whole host of non-fiction books. So I didn't make a TBR. All the dogs in the world are barking right now. I've missed that part of making a video. Not. Yeah, I think they shut up. In no particular order, I am reading right now Emergency Admissions, The Memoirs of an Ambulance Driver by Kit Wharton, which is incredibly funny, vastly not PC. There are definitely a few opinions held in there about obese patients and patients who abuse alcohol and things like that, frequent callers with mental health issues, which I don't agree with. I don't especially want to promote those opinions, but I do think that if you're into this kind of flash non-fiction where you're essentially doing a ride along with somebody from a profession that you're interested in, this is an interesting book to pick up. We will talk about all of this in my wrap up for Non-Fiction November, because even though I didn't do a TBR, I'm still going to be wrapping it up like the true rebel that I am. Next, and I feel as if I am perpetually rereading this book, which makes me very happy. I am reading Tiny Beautiful Things, advice on love and life from someone who's been there, by Cheryl Strayed, who is the author of Wild. I talked about this in my unusual memoir Leanne Likes video not that long ago. I'll link it up here somewhere. Cheryl Strayed used to anonymously run a column called Dear Sugar, where she would answer anonymous letters with her sort of unconventional advice, and I really feel as if I get something new from this book every time that I read it. It's an incredibly hard book to read, which is why I never just read it cover to cover. I'm reading it aloud this time again, and we read a couple of letters and then we have to just sit down and discuss them for a little while. The next thing that I'm reading that is non-fiction is also another book that I'm reading aloud, and it is this absolutely stunning book which I was like so generously sent by Pan Macmillan to review, and it is An Illustrated Tour of the Night Sky, What We See in Stars by Kelsey O'Seed. It is a really basic but really interesting introduction to the idea of constellations in astronomy and what astronomers look at specifically when they're looking at stars and galaxies and the way that both form. So it has lots of beautiful informative pages like this, but it is also chock full of stunning illustrations like this. Still going with the non-fiction, I am, I would say, about 2/3 of the way through. It's All in Your Head by Suzanne O'Sullivan. I can never remember her first name. This is a book about the idea of psychosomatic illness, or rather that psychosomatic symptoms which are not caused by any physical ailment but which are caused by the brain, which create physical ailments, should still be seen as an illness. And it follows Suzanne Sullivan, who's a neurologist, and some of the cases that she's seen in her life, and she's had to learn to have compassion for. And this one is a really controversial book, and I don't really understand why, because all the criticism that I've read for it discusses the sort of junk science approach of, well, if we can't prove it, then we don't really think it exists, or we can prove that something exists, and I don't think she's giving it enough credit. And I don't feel like that at all. I don't feel like she is at all attacking the idea of the fact that these patients mostly genuinely have incredibly difficult psychiatric symptoms which are debilitating for their lives. I don't think she takes away from that at all. In fact, I think she encourages us to be sympathetic, and she really is brutally honest about the ways in which she was not sympathetic and had to learn to be, and has changed as a doctor and as a human. I am also reading Columbine by Dave Cullen. When I have bad mental health dips, I really struggle with names, so I'm sorry if I've said any of these wrong, and that I'm looking constantly at the books to just reaffirm that that is who I think it is. This is a really famous book which has recently come back into print with a new afterword and an expanded foreword. It is, of course, about Columbine and the school shooting that took place there. I read A Mother's Reckoning by Sue Klebold. If that's wrong, I'll correct it at the bottom, but I think that's right. And I was intensely interested in the idea of nature and nurture in her memoir about being Dylan's mother. And Dylan is one of the two shooters who was involved in Columbine. It presents a really enigmatic picture up against Eric, who is portrayed, or has been portrayed in the media, as more of a classic sociopath. So I was very interested in Dave's account of everybody's pieced together memories of the two. I don't know, it's lauded as the definitive book on Columbine, I think, because there is nothing that can compare to this, but that doesn't necessarily make it a wonderful book. So, and finally, the only non-fiction things that I'm reading right now, which is not like me at all, one that I've just started, which is another read aloud, is The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur, which is of course a follow-up to Milk and Honey. Again, Rupi Kaur and her poetry are quite divisive. Maybe not the right material for right now, but I'm positive that there's going to be an uplifting section at some point. And the final book that I am reading, oh my lordy, I really wish I had listened to my lovely friend Kirsty far sooner. Picked this one up from my stack because oh, I'm loving it, and it is The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter, and I am a new Karen Slaughter devotee. This is tremendous. It is raw, it is funny, it's compelling, it is incredibly brutally honest about a lot of things, which I really appreciate in a thriller, because I think sometimes thrillers don't necessarily develop characters before plot, and this one has, oh, it's definitely characters before plot. I am going to go straight on and read another Karen Slaughter book as soon as I finish this one, because I love it, and if I had read it a bit more quickly, it would have been in more people's Christmas stockings. So the card ran out of memory, which is apparently how long I've been talking, so I'm gonna cut myself off here, but I will say that I'm really glad to be back, and I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I hope that we can have some discussions in the comments, and I hope that all of you are great. Yeah. Bye. wrapping paper. I really want to start singing Jingle Bells.